On his way to school, this student saved a cat from getting run over. The driver was furious, so one of the schoolgirls defended Jujong and said he was actually pretty cool. The new student barely said a word since transferring. He kept his head down, always sitting in silence. He went unnoticed by most, but not by the girls. One afternoon, while he was napping, the girls were admiring his looks, and one of them even took a sneak peek. Later, she showed it to him with a shy smile, but right at that moment her boyfriend walked in. Seeing them together, he started mocking the new guy for being so quiet and skinny. The girl brushed it off, telling Taku to just sit down since class was about to start. Later that day, Taku caught his girlfriend fanning the new kid again. She didn't even look at him, just sat close to Zhujian. Because of that, Taku couldn't focus on the game and wham, a ball smacked him right in the face. At first, he laughed it off to keep his cool, but that cold glare at the couple showed his true colors. After the game, Taku dragged the kid who threw the ball to the roof and shaved his head because nobody gets to embarrass him in public like that. By coincidence, that's exactly where Zijin hangs out, so he saw the whole thing. Noticing him, Taku threatened to give Zhujian the same haircut, but the protagonist didn't say a word, just stared at him calmly. Taku tried, but couldn't get a single reaction out of him. So he backed off, claiming he'd only spare him to stop the schoolgirls from starting a war. That night, while Jujong was heading home, two students walked up and told him the boyfriend wanted a chat. When Jujong got there, the boyfriend showed him the girl's phone. Her wallpaper was that photo she took of Jujong. She tried to downplay it, saying it meant nothing and telling Jujong to just leave. The boyfriend, totally enraged, suddenly slapped her hard, knocking her to the ground. "Why are you on his side instead of mine?" He screamed, but she stood her ground. "You call yourself my boyfriend, but you're always out partying with other girls." Furious, he kicked her right in the stomach. Just as he raised his hand to hit her again, Jujong stepped in and blocked the shot. The boyfriend punched Jujong with all his might, but it didn't even faze him. When he attacked again, Jujong dodged quickly and landed a massive punch that dropped him to the floor. Everyone around went silent, totally stunned. The other bullies rushed to Jujong, but he took them down one by one. Then he turned back to the boyfriend and started pummeling him over and over until the girls stepped in to stop it. That was the moment she realized the quiet kid wasn't just silent. He was carrying a hidden darkness inside. Returning to the beginning of the incident from Ariam's perspective, who, when leaving school, saw the boys calling Jaisen and forcibly taking him to where Tatsu was. She just stood there watching and trying to understand what was going on. But she quickly decided to follow to see what would happen. Running with her umbrella, she reached the corner and hid. When she looked, she saw Jaisen throwing punches and kicks at all the boys, as if he were a wild animal. And the boys were screaming desperately for him to stop. She was frozen. Watching that terrifying scene, the boy, when leaving there, somewhat dazed by what had just happened, passed by where the girl was hiding under her umbrella. They stared at each other for a brief moment, and she offered him shelter under her umbrella. But Jaisen just turned his back on her and walked away in the rain. The next morning at school, the young people noticed Tax's absence early on, but his absence wasn't unusual. But Jisun's absence caught their attention more. Yena's little friend was sad because without Jisun there, everything felt empty. While they were thinking about the boy somewhere a little distant from there, the boy who saw the beating Jisun gave to the bullies was telling a man what happened, who was surprised to find out that Taxa was beaten up and is now in the hospital. He asked the boy how his friend was doing, who replied that he needed to be hospitalized for a while because he had facial fractures and Taxu didn't want visitors because he thought it was something shameful. He also said that 4 people were hit. Then the man asked who was the guy capable of beating Taxu in terms of physicality. So the boy told him it was a guy named Jisun, a transfer student. But since he doesn't say anything, he doesn't know anything about him. The man seemed incredulous to learn that 4 people lost to an unknown kid. One of the guy's henchmen grabbed the boy by the neck and questioned whether he was hiding to avoid any scratches. He replied that he simply didn't approach because he thought 5 against 1 was a bit unfair, and that's why he did nothing. He threw the boy against the wall while what seemed to be the boss asked where Jisun had been transferred from. He answered that no one knows because he literally never speaks. The chubby one slapped the boy, calling him useless, and asked if this Jisun had any characteristics that they could immediately notice. Feeling a bit embarrassed, he replied that Jisun is handsome enough to win favors from girls with a model-like style and also seems to be wealthy. While he spoke about his charm, the chubby one hit him again, asking if he was in love with the boy. Meanwhile, the boss was just trying to understand the story of the silent and mysterious transfer student named Jaisen. He is a fighter with an attractive appearance. That is a rare trait. He became a bit crazy thinking about how attractive Jizen is. The next day, back at school for his normal routine, Jizen went to the lockers to put away his things, and there was the boy spying on him. He had been ordered to investigate what kind of guy Jizen was, but faced with the boss's furious gaze, he merely agreed that he should look into the boy. But when it came time to do so, he lamented being in that situation. Jizen opened his locker, which was practically empty. The phone inside began to vibrate, receiving messages. He picked up the phone to see what the messages were, congratulating him and saying he received that phone for free. It was an old phone, but the X-Talk worked, and the person on the other end would hear any concerns Jizen had. The protagonist looked around to see if anyone was watching him, but he ended up not seeing either of the two who were hiding. Some girl had given the phone to Jizen and was nervous about the situation, but he seemed to not care about it and just left the phone on top of the locker and walked away calmly. The boy who was watching took the opportunity to grab the phone he had left behind. When he picked up the phone and started checking what kind of device it was and if it was unlocked, he was bumped from behind, causing him to fall to the ground. Then the girl who bumped into him took the phone and ran away. And the little boy was left on the ground wondering what had happened and who that girl was. He was angry about that rudeness, questioning why the bullies were so fierce these days. Yuri was telling Yena about her aunt's poodle that gave birth to puppies and that she planned to adopt one, but her father wouldn't allow it. But she noticed that Yena wasn't paying attention as she was lost and thought again, and asked if she was worried about Jizen since it's the second day he hasn't come to class. But when she looked ahead, she saw Jizen. There he was, standing tall with a lifeless gaze. When Yenha saw him approaching, she was left speechless. She quickly handed her things to her friend and ran towards the boy, giving him a tight hug, leaving everyone surprised by what just happened. With tears in her eyes, she said she was worried about him and asked if he was okay, and said she would never forget that he saved her life. The boy who was observing confirmed her statement that girls adore Jizen and noted in his phone facts about Jizen, saying he arrives a bit late and the girls like him, but he still doesn't speak. At the end of the day, leaving school, the protagonist followed the same path as always, and some men were waiting for him to pass that way. Upon seeing the boy, they noticed that he really stood out from the other boys. He signaled to his companion with a whistle. They rode their scooters behind the boy, surrounded him, trying to intimidate him so he wouldn't leave. They asked if he was Jisun, and as expected, the boy didn't respond. But his silence confirmed that he was who they were looking for. Then the man ordered him to get on the motorcycle because he came to pick up the boy. He asked Jisun if he had heard of Kong Duel from Dizio Technical High School and said that as soon as he went to the second year, he became a legend by reaching the top 3 in the school. And there is no one who doesn't know him because it is a different dimension from Jasen's school, which is a hangout for nerds, and said that Kong wants to meet him. He said he didn't need to be afraid because he wouldn't die for now. It was just an invitation. But the boy stood still, leaving them angry as they began to shout at him to get on the motorcycle. Then one of the guys grabbed his backpack and asked if the boy wanted to get on the motorcycle after he broke his legs. He told him to get on while he was being nice. Jizen simply left his backpack and went on his way. That left the guys furious, and they quickly took off after the boy. The boy entered the first alley he found on his path. One of the guys trying to follow him ended up missing the turn and crashing into the wall, but the other guy continued chasing Jizen. Even a giant staircase didn't stop the man. He quickly rode up the stairs on his motorcycle. When he was almost catching up to the boy in the middle of the stairs, Jizen, with just a little kick at one of the trash bags, lifted the trash bag and kicked it towards the motorcycle rider, causing him to fall down the entire staircase with the motorcycle and everything, landing on top of the other thug who was just arriving after hitting the wall. Watching the motorcycle tumble down the stairs, the man asked the other what he had just done. They got up and ran to try to catch the boy who had gotten away. They managed to see him turning another corner. They started running faster to catch up to the boy. But when they reached where he turned, they faced another gigantic staircase. In the middle of the stairs, they saw the boy fleeing. When they finally managed to catch up to him, upon turning, they realized it wasn't the same person they had been chasing, and that made them even angrier. They attacked the mysterious boy just out of anger for him being there at the wrong time, while they cursed and hit the unknown boy. Jizen watched them from the rooftops and left without being seen again. Back at the Billy's base, the men reported that they couldn't catch the boy. The chubby one with a short fuse yelled at the two for their incompetence and kicked them both. The two explained that the boy ran into an alley that looked like a maze, which is why they couldn't catch him. The boss said his anxiety was growing more and more. He asked Sungmin if he had discovered anything about Jae-sin. Handing over his cell phone, he said he had investigated as much as he could. Kong Dul read the three only pieces of information the boy had noted down. He got angry about that and asked if he called that an investigation. The chubby one then laid him down along with the other three. The boss said to let the boy go for tomorrow. He would take Jae-sin to the back gate after class. He questioned if Sung-min could do that and told Dae-shik to take responsibility for capturing the boy. He concluded by saying he needed to know that boy by tomorrow. The chubby one complied with the orders while the little boy became more and more shocked by being increasingly involved in that. Then the next day, early in the morning, Sung-min was buying 2 sodas when a friend of his arrived, asking if he was buying one for him. But the boy denied it and said there was no reason to give it to him, and his little friend asked who he would give it to then. Seeing Jae-sin pass by, the boy understood that this was his opportunity. He went after him and approached from behind, saying good morning to him, asking if he was okay and offering him a soda. He said he wanted to clarify things because it might have seemed like he was part of Taxi's gang, but he had only gone out with them a few times. And then, on the day of the fight, he felt very invigorated seeing Taxi getting beaten without being able to fight back. That lifted a huge weight off the boy, so that's why he was there to say thank you. But Jae-sin didn't pay him any attention and just continued on his way. That was already expected from someone like him. And now, the boy wondered how he would manage to take him to the back gate. But the fear of the chubby one motivated him. The day passed and lunchtime arrived. Everyone was leaving the classroom to go eat. But Jae-sin continued sleeping in the classroom for a little while longer. As he got up, Sung-min watched him secretly from the door, and he understood why he had never seen the boy in the cafeteria. It was because that guy prepared lunch separately. Jae-sin went to the same place he always had lunch, and upon arriving at the bench, he found the cell phone again with a message asking if it would be bread for lunch again today. Then he noticed someone crouching to hide. The one trying to talk to him through the cell phone was Ariam. The girl took advantage of the fact that he had the cell phone in hand and started sending him several messages, asking if he always ate alone on the rooftop and saying that she also ate and that she had seen him a few times on the rooftop, so she wanted to talk to him. While searching for who was sending her messages, the girl sent another one saying that he was to her left. When he looked, she raised her hand waving at him and lowered it again. Through a message, she said that it was still not easy to face people and that she heard he doesn't talk and that she is like that too. She questioned why he didn't say anything. Just as he was about to start typing his response, someone arrived shouting in the place where he was. It was Sung-min pretending it was a coincidence that they met there. He said he had gone there to eat his bread roll and asked what Jae-sin was eating. Even without receiving any response, he sat next to him saying he would eat with him. Then there was that awkward atmosphere, and they both ate in complete silence. The boys started to groan softly, and that caught Jae-sin's attention. Crying, Sungmin said that he actually has no friends. And that's why he hangs out with the guys from Taxa because he didn't want to be excluded. He told Jae-sin that since they were both outcasts, they should be friends. But the boy didn't pay any attention to what he was saying. Sung-min's plan didn't work. Even shedding tears didn't help. Our protagonist got up to leave, but the boy didn't want his effort to be in vain. He grabbed his arm asking if they were friends or not. As expected, he didn't pay him any mind. He just left, leaving the fool there waiting for an answer. A little later, almost time to leave, Dae-shik was messaging the boy asking where he was and why he hadn't brought Jae-sin to him. The teacher was finishing the class, and the boy was desperate thinking about how he would do that. He couldn't give up and went after his target. He couldn't find him anywhere and became increasingly desperate thinking he might have already left. Upon arriving at the 5th grade classroom, he didn't see him at first. But then he saw the boy sitting in front of the window watching the movement outside. It looked like he was filming a commercial before leaving. More messages from the chubby boy asking how long it would take motivated the boy to act quickly. He then called Jae-sin to talk. He said he had called his mom saying he made a friend, and she was very happy. And she said to bring his new friend to her work so she could meet him. He asked if Jae-sin could go with him just to pretend to be his friend. Sung-min thought that using his mom as bait, he wouldn't be able to refuse, and he waited for the boy's response. Since he didn't say anything, he went up to him to take him, guiding the boy to where he should go, saying that to get to his mom's work, they would have to go out the back gate to be quicker. He knew that, in that neighborhood, if you were someone naive, you wouldn't survive for long. He took the opportunity to warn the chubby boy that they were passing through the back gate. Discreetly, the chubby boy passed by Jae-sin and bumped into the boy with quite a force. The boy lost his balance and was about to fall to the ground, but Daeshik caught him by the strap of his backpack, saying he should be careful, and that if he gave up easily, there was no reason for the boss to have waited so long. He threw the boy against the wall like a bag of trash. He said it was a pleasure to meet the so-called Silent One. He grabbed him by the neck and said that his face was pretty, but his skills were apparently nothing special. Jason placed his foot on the chubby boy's chest and pushed him back, freeing himself from his grip. When the boy landed on the ground, the phone he had received slipped out of his pocket and slid towards the nearby sewer. The chubby boy charged at him again, asking if that was all he had to offer. He threw a punch, but Jason managed to block it with his arms. But that made him slide back closer to the sewer, and he took the opportunity to grab his phone from the edge of the sewer to prevent it from falling inside. Filled with rage, Daeshik said he would finish him off with the next blow, and the boy stood up ready for the duel. Daeshik asked if with that skinny body, he could handle a fight with a weight difference. The boy was hiding, feeling guilty for bringing Jason there since the chubby boy would finish him off. Then the chubby boy charged at Jason, telling him to try to block the next blow. The clever young man used his backpack to defend himself, but even so, he was thrown back until he hit the wall. The chubby boy was surprised that he had used his backpack to defend himself and said he was smarter than he looked. Jason took the things out of his bag, and Daeshik came running at him, saying that this kind of thing wouldn't work anymore. When he struck, the young man dodged with skill. He used the strap of his backpack to wrap around the guy's leg, pulling with all his strength to destabilize him. He threw the chubby guy to the ground like a sack of potatoes. Daeshik didn't understand anything that just happened. As he was trying to get up, Jason was already preparing his next strike. A kick right in the chubby guy's face, who couldn't even think where that skinny kid got all that strength. And right after that, he took a hard kick to the face. And the hidden boy was surprised to see that scene and couldn't believe Daeshik was getting beaten. There was the chubby guy with his face all messed up. Jason just turned his back with that look of disdain. He picked up the phone that had fallen on the ground. But the chubby guy got up and ran towards him, saying that the fight wasn't over yet, and he threw a punch at Jason's chest, knocking him to the ground. He picked up the phone that had fallen from the kid, asking if it was very important to him, and said he just needed to take him anyway, and that it was a shame he had to take him alive. Then suddenly, the guy on the motorcycle arrived. The chubby guy got on the bike and said that if the kid wanted his phone back, he would have to go to Alley Park. As he was leaving, he said that the welcome was ready for him. The scared little boy ran to Jason to ask if he was okay, and he was impressed to see that he had no injuries. He asked what he would do now that his phone was taken, and if there was compromising information, his personal information and private life would be exposed, and he would be in trouble. He said his mom could wait until next time and that he should hurry and go to Ollie Park. The boy played 120% of his role up to that moment. Now, he just had to wait to see if he would go or not. Our protagonist stood up silently and walked away, and the boy was surprised to see that he was indeed going after his phone. He then reached in front of a giant wooden staircase. He started climbing, passing by some troublemakers. As he approached the end of the stairs, he began to see several guys. They all seemed to be from a gang, and they were all waiting for him. They formed a corridor, and at the end of the corridor was their leader, who was ecstatic to see that Jason had come there. Showing the kid's phone, he asked if that was what he had come to get. Then Jason just walked towards the guy to get his phone, who said he didn't find anything special since there were no numbers and no call history. All that was there were just a few text messages, and they were from some girl who was watching him. But since he had gone there just to get that phone, the boy stopped in front of him and extended his hand, asking for his phone. Then the leader asked what that was, if it was a girlfriend or something that was just starting, and this made him very curious about the story. Since he was frustrated with the story, he sent a message. He said he moved some things quickly. Meanwhile, Ariam was far away receiving some messages from the phone number he had given to Jason, telling her to go to Ollie Park and that if she did, she would be his girlfriend. So if she goes there after reading that text, it's certain that she likes Jason a lot. The leader said that if the two became a couple, they should buy him a treat later. Jason didn't say a word. He just kept his hand extended to get his phone. The guy asked if he really wanted that and said that his henchman had a bit of trouble bringing him there. That bastard Tatsu had always been very reckless, and the leader knew that one day he would get hurt. But anyway, they were classmates in elementary school, and he asked if the kid was ready to pay the price. But the kid remained silent, leaving the leader smiling to see that he was truly completely quiet. He then said that if he could last against his henchman, he would return his phone. He explained that he shouldn't know since he was a transfer student, but the hierarchy fights were fierce in that neighborhood. And the moment he messed with Taksu, he entered the fight for hierarchy. And he concluded by saying he wanted to see what he could do. The chubby guy already charged at him, thirsty for revenge, throwing a punch at the kid, but he easily dodged, leaving the chubby guy filled with rage, who shouted for the other guys to punch that kid. Everyone then began to attack the boy, who skillfully dodged the blows without retaliating. He held his hand up midway, but there were too many people there. They ended up hitting the boy, who managed to protect his face from the blows. He fell at the feet of one of the men who struck the boy right in the face. Then some took advantage of the fact that he was on the ground and started kicking him. The boss merely watched the boy getting beaten by everyone and wondered why he was only defending himself from the attacks. He was unsure if it was because the boy wasn't interested in fighting for hierarchy. And a guy next to the boss said that the bastard, even while being beaten, didn't let out a single scream. He questioned whether the boy preferred to lose his life rather than speak. This made the boss even more curious to know what his voice sounded like with that appearance. So he shouted that if anyone could make the boy scream, he would give them a limited edition Nike Air Jordan kicks as a gift. This motivated that group of tough guys to hit the boy even harder. Various blows were thrown, and Jason was just defending himself. And the boss shouted for him to show what he had and to prove he was a rare item. Daishik arrived, telling the boys to get out of the way. Kicking the boy, he asked where that drive he had been showing earlier was, and our protagonist fell to the ground with a battered face. A boy took advantage of him on the ground and picked up a rock, telling the boss that he was going to make that bastard scream, and that he hadn't liked his appearance from the start, and this would solve it. But then the boss kicked the boy's hand to make him drop the stone, and asked if he wanted to die by stooping to such a low level. He grabbed Jason by the shirt and lifted him close to his face. He asked why he seemed to enjoy being hit and what he was trying to hide, and said that this wouldn't end until he proved his worth. The boy who had sent him there was hiding, watching what they were doing to Jason. And as expected, that gang was on a different level than Taxi's gang. But while he was thinking about this, he saw Irium approaching. Then the phone in the boss's hand vibrated. Upon reading the message that had arrived, it said to let Jason go. Quickly, he looked around to see if he could find someone and saw the girl standing there with her phone in hand. He told the boy that maybe now he had gained the will to fight because his potential girlfriend was there. With just a signal, he ordered his henchman to go to the girl, and waving the phone, he shouted for her to come closer. While she was typing another message, the guy approached her from the side. He grabbed her by the arm and was impressed by how beautiful she was. She tried to escape from him, but he held her tighter and asked where she thought she was going. And the cowardly little boy hiding behind the tree was terrified to see his crush in that situation, but did nothing. The guy dragged the girl closer to the others and said she needed to see how her boyfriend looked. He handed her over to the gang boss. She and Jason locked eyes for a few seconds, remembering some brief moments when they had seen each other. And there was the girl with her arm injured and full of fear. The henchmen were impressed that she had actually come there. And the chubby guy asked if she came there because she wanted to be that bastard's girlfriend, but he was a bit busy now. Because he was such a frustrating guy and was teaching that loser a lesson, the girl typed a message saying he was just a friend and asking again to let him go. The boss then asked why she wasn't speaking either and asked for the girl's name. Not getting a response, that was when he found the common point between the two. Everyone began to mock them for only communicating through messages and called them weird. And the boss said it didn't matter who did it, but someone was to make them talk and would earn a reward. The chubby guy asked if even the girl was eligible for the reward, and the boss said yes. Then the guys went to the girl and started harassing her, saying that since she wasn't talking, she wouldn't refuse anything. Some were holding her arms while others were playing with her hair, and Jason was just watching that happen. The boss asked what he was going to do now, if he was going to continue resisting like this, and the guys were still messing with the girl up to that point. Holding her face, one of the guys asked why she was keeping her mouth shut. While the guy tried to force her to speak, one of the guys surrounding the girl took a hit, and the boy looked at the guy lying on the ground. When he turned to see what happened, he quickly got punched in the face. The guy in the hat asked what he thought he was doing, but soon after, he took a punch to the face and fell to the ground like a sack of potatoes, already unconscious. That excited the boss. Now, Jason was finally fighting for real. After getting everyone away from the girl, he charged at the rest, and the girl was terrified by what was happening. The whole gang then joined forces to confront the boy. Some landed punches on him. He grabbed one by the leg and threw him over the others, but another guy jumped on him. Quickly, Jason grabbed him by the hair and threw several punches at his face. One of the gang members tried to kick the boy, but he dodged. He grabbed the guy's leg and knocked him to the ground. Then the chubby guy came running at him, saying he would put an end to this. And the guy with his leg trapped was shouting for him to let go of his leg. Jason kicked him in the chin, knocking him out. He got away from there and went after the chubby guy, dodging the punch that Daeshik tried to land on him. He stepped on his leg for leverage and delivered a knee to the chubby guy's face, but he didn't stop there. Jason followed up with another kick to his opponent's face. The boss was getting more and more motivated knowing that the boy was a rare find. Meanwhile, the fight between Jason and Daeshik was ongoing. The chubby guy grabbed him with all his strength. Already missing one of his teeth, he was furious about getting beaten for the second time. The boy raised his arms high. He struck the chubby guy's face with his elbows, hitting his eyes, and continued to elbow his enemy's face, making the chubby guy lose more teeth and fall unconscious. Everyone was in disbelief at that scene, as no one expected to see Daeshik defeated. The fight continued with Jason against the whole gang. Amid punches and kicks, all his opponents fell one by one. While the gang leader just watched, impressed by the boy's skills and found him more interesting than he had expected, one of the gang members grabbed the girl by the neck to try to make Jason stop hitting his friends. The protagonist, seeing the scene, remembered something from his past. A woman in a cap being held by a man, screaming for help from him. Then he seemed to become even angrier and walked toward them, while the guy told him not to come closer. Another guy even tried to attack him from behind, but with just one elbow strike, he knocked the fool down. He propelled himself quickly toward the guy holding Ariam, who screamed in fear of Jason. But her scream was interrupted by a punch to her face. When she fell to the ground, Jason didn't stop and continued to go after him, landing more and more punches on the guy. The gang leader then approached them and told Jason to stop that and said for him to take his phone back because he deserved to get his phone back. Then the boss invited Jason to join his team and said he couldn't stand not getting what he wanted. The furious boy got off the guy and walked toward the gang leader, who seemed scared of him and asked what he was doing since the fight was already over, and reinforced by telling him to stop and questioned what that look was about. Jason didn't care about what he was saying. He just lunged to punch him, but the boss got into a fighting stance. He dodged the boy's punch, leaving him in disbelief. Then the guy punched the boy in the chin, sending him backward. He fell to the ground, almost unconscious. The boss just repeated that he had told him to stop, and the boy lay there on the ground doing and saying nothing. The gang leader told him to think carefully about the proposal he made to the boy and that he would come back to hear his answer, and he threw the phone on top of him. He called his crew to leave the place, and they all followed him immediately. Going down the stairs, the chubby guy asked who that bastard was, and if the boss was really going to recruit that punk who didn't even talk, and ended by saying it was scary when his eyes rolled back. The boss was thinking about the punch he had dodged, but still, Jason reacted in an instant and managed to graze him. That boy had a talent for exploiting openings, so his level was high, and that only increased his thirst to have him in his gang. Meanwhile, where their fight took place, Jason and Ariam continued. He sat on the bench completely worn out after that intense battle. Ariam was visibly worried about her crush's situation. Suddenly, she turned her back and ran away. Then Jason's phone vibrated with the arrival of new messages. The girl said she went to buy medicine and would be back in a moment. He remembered the situation the girl ended up in because of him. He thought for a while about all this and ended up leaving his phone on the bench and walked away. The boy who was hiding and watching was terrified of Jason because if it had been a one-on-one from the start, he would have won them all. Finally, an amazing guy transferred to his school. Passing by the bench, he saw a phone and recalled that it was Jason's. Seeing the messages, he understood that Ariam had given it to him. And reading the messages, he realized that she liked him. Then he saw the girl in the distance coming back with the medicine for Jason. He thought about what he should do in that situation. Like the coward he was, he decided to run away from there. When the girl arrived at the bench, she found no sign of the boy. And the boy kept running until he was far away. While running, the phone vibrated with incoming messages. Ariam said she bought the medicine, but that he left before she returned and asked if his injuries were okay. Sun Min was surprised by Jason's cold heart because the girl was very worried about him, and he didn't even take the phone. And he was indecisive about what he should do. The girl kept sending messages stating her name and which class she was in. She thanked him for helping her and asked if they could talk gradually from now on. He was going crazy with indecision about whether to reply to her or just the messages. Whether he should pretend to be Jisun just for a moment. Then a message arrived on the girl's phone. She was startled to receive a reply. It was a simple and short yes to her question. The next day, Sung-min was showing the footage to his friend, Jisun fighting against the entire gang alone. His friend asked if that was the guy he called unlucky, and he said yes, surprised to see it live. The boy said that now he would gain great popularity after this. And the boy was angry because his crush, Ariam, seemed to like that jerk. And still, he was rejecting the girl and didn't know what to do anymore. While he was going crazy, his friend said that if he posted that on YouTube, it would get millions of views. So he was going to take the video. And he ran off, and Sung-min chased after him, asking him to return his phone. While running, he bumped into a guy, knocking off his tie clip and quickly apologized. He had bumped into Kim Jin-woo from the second year and second place at Baekdong High. Upon recognizing the guy, the boy quickly went to pick up the clip that fell and said he would fix it again. Shaking, he put it back in place, and the guy slapped Sung-min in the face and just turned his back and walked away. The big guy who walked with the tough guy told the boy to behave. Sung-min's friend asked if he was okay, and the angry boy said he got hit because of him. His friend said that it was incredible that it ended with just one slap because that jerk was famous. They were all crazy fighters. His friend pointed out something more important. Yena approached Jason asking what had happened to him because of his face full of bandages. The protagonist's popularity irritated the scared boy. Ariam and Yena were both smitten with him. Speaking of Ariam, she was passing by there too. He tried to charm the girl, but she didn't pay him any attention and just continued on her way. As expected, to get closer to her, he would have to get close to Jisun. While he thought about how to approach the girl, his friend was hiding with his phone. Posting the video of Jisun's fight against the gang on YouTube, the boys were bullying the kid who had his hair shaved by Tatsu. They drew a face on the back of his neck and said he looked prettier now. Gagamin was sad about all that teasing, but it wasn't over yet. One of the boys said he should walk backward from now on. And afraid of getting hit, the boy did what they told him. He walked without knowing where he was going with the two boys guiding him. Until suddenly, the ground where he was stepping ended. Then he lost his balance and started to fall down the stairs. When he was almost hitting the ground with his back, Jason caught him, saving the boy from getting seriously hurt. Yena, who was with the protagonist, asked if Gagamin was okay. But when she saw the boy's neck, she couldn't hold back her laughter, even with him saying he had been targeted by the bullies. Trying to suppress her laughter, she apologized to him. As expected, Jason found no humor in the joke, and mentally, Gagamon thanked him. Later, in the school gym, while one was guarding the door, two others were fighting inside. Surrounded by other students cheering and motivating the two in the center fighting. It looked like a spectacle. Even bets were being placed on those fights. Kim Jin-woo found that fight boring until a guy handed him his phone to show him a video. It was the video of Jisun fighting that Sung-min's friend had posted earlier. And with each passing second, the views kept increasing. Kim Jin-woo asked if that boy was from their school and was told that he probably was since the uniform was the same. The two were impressed by the boy's skills, but the video was too far away to see clearly. And if he really was from that school, it would be a success. So he asked everyone in the gym if anyone knew if there had been any transferred students to their school recently. A boy replied that in the next class, there was the quiet kid and said he was in the 5th grade. There was also a rumor that Taksu was hospitalized because of that student, but no one talked much about it, so it wasn't certain. Kim Jin-woo was all giddy when he heard that he had beaten Taksu and told one of his lackeys to find out more about him because he seemed like an interesting guy. At lunchtime, some boys called Gagamin to go with them, but he made an excuse. When Jason left his class, he stuck to him and said he had bought bread and asked if they could eat together. Since the protagonist either said yes nor no, he just accompanied him saying he would eat with him sometimes. When they reached the rooftop, Sung-min was already there waiting. But Gagumin's presence with Jisun left him confused about what was happening. While one said he was waiting to eat with Jisun, the other said he came along for that too. When he turned to talk to the protagonist, Sung-min saw the drawings on his neck and started laughing, saying he would always be the funny guy. But Gagamin said he wasn't trying to be funny, and that his body was marked by the reality of school violence and couldn't resolve that just by hiding it. You can't just avoid the truth, the boy concluded and asked Sung-min to take a picture for him. Not understanding the purpose of the photo, the boy took it anyway. While taking the photo, the phone that belonged to Jason was in his pocket and vibrated. Stepping away from the boys, he told them to keep eating and that he would be right back. He took the phone from his pocket and read the message from Ariam wishing Jason a good lunch. But being a bit silly, he interpreted the message as if it were for him and replied to the girl wishing her a good lunch too. That single message made the girl feel giddy. Suddenly, Jaemon walked through the door, and Sung-min, scared, asked what he was doing there, and he went straight to where Jason was sitting. He said that he had been told that the quiet kid usually stayed on the rooftop during lunch. And now he confirmed it was true and got closer to the boy. He extended his phone, showing the fight video, and asked if that was him. Sung-min panicked upon learning that his friend had actually posted a video on YouTube. Gagamin asked what was happening, and the guy replied that there were many rumors about it and he wanted to see the boy's skills in person. But Jason ignored him, which made him angry. Already preparing to punch, Jaemon asked if he wasn't listening. When he tried to hit the boy with a punch, Jason calmly dodged. He tried to throw more and more punches, but couldn't land any, which only increased his anger. And he said that since the boy couldn't get up, he would be defeated anyway. He tried to throw another punch, and the boy dodged again. And he only kicked his opponent's shin, knocking him off balance, making him hover in the air for a moment, and then he fell face first onto the bench. The bully started screaming in pain after that, and Jason just stared at him with a look of disdain. Jaemon's face was covered in blood from breaking his nose when he hit the bench. Upon facing the boy, he felt an absurd aura, leaving him scared out of his wits and making him run away from there immediately. The other two were impressed by how fast he left. Gagamin asked what Jason was since he wasn't a normal person. Sungmin explained that it was Jason who hospitalized Tatsu, and that only made the boy think the protagonist was even more amazing. But Sungmin said that the fact that Guy had come looking for him was a bit dangerous. He mentioned that the bastard was part of Kim Jin-woo's gang, and when he thought someone had some skill, he would drag them in and force them to fight. And now it seemed that Jason had become a target for him. He also said he had heard that some guys applied to make money and that someone like Jason could easily make a lot of money. Gagamin asked what nonsense he was talking about and said that since Jason didn't speak, he would refuse for him. He concluded that Jason didn't seem to like fighting or asserting himself. Gagamon then dubbed himself Jason's voice. Since they were friends now, he could do that for him. Some men doubted their friendship, but Gagamon insisted they were friends. Back in the classroom for the second part of the day, when they saw Jason arrive, a buzz started. And some classmates came with their phones in hand showing the video and asking if it was really him, asking him to at least nod if it was him. Gagamon intervened, telling them not to bother the boy and that if they had something to say, they should say it to him first. Everyone got angry at that intervention and stuck close to the boy. The door was opened abruptly, and Kim Jin-woo entered the classroom. He stopped at the front of the room and asked who the transfer student was. Everyone was a bit hesitant to point out the boy, but Gagamin, standing next to him, caught his attention. And the guy walked towards the two. But Gagamin stepped in front of the boy. And when Kim Jin-woo got close, he asked what he was doing. Somewhat scared, he said he was Jason's friend and was his representative, so he should talk to him first. The fat guy, who seemed to be the thug of the guy, asked who he thought he was, and he insisted they talk to him first. Slapping the boy's face, the fat guy asked if he was an idiot. As he fell to the ground, he turned his back, allowing the fat guy to see the face drawn on his neck. He grabbed him by the collar of his shirt, lifted him, and said that the bastard was very funny. Jason suddenly stood up as if moved by an impulse, and Kim Jin-woo asked if he was the bastard who broke Jaemon's nose. Not getting any response, he handed him the business card and asked if he had heard of his gym. He said he had sent that guy to invite him, but since he couldn't, he decided to come personally. Not getting any excitement from the boy, he tried another strategy by asking if he liked to make money. Then Gagamin stood up, interrupting the conversation between the two, and said that Jason didn't like to fight and wouldn't go to the arena. Kim Ji-woo was already fed up with that idiot. He kicked the boy in the chest, sending him backward. He fell on top of the chairs, getting hurt. The guy continued to go after him and asked if he didn't know when not to interfere and why he was acting like an idiot by standing in the middle. He shouted for him to stay still and quiet and began to stomp on the boy lying on the ground. While he was stomping on the boy, Jason put his hand on his shoulder, making him turn around. The two stared at each other for a few seconds, and Kim Jin-woo told him to take his hand off his shoulder because he hated when something or someone touched his body. Jae-jin gripped his shirt tighter, leaving that guy surprised. The fat guy charged at the boy, telling him to take his filthy hands off that guy. Jason easily dodged the fat guy's punch and responded with a knee to his opponent's face, which made him spit blood and scream in pain. And soon after, he fell over the tables and chairs. But he wasn't going to accept that defeat easily. He grabbed a chair, preparing to throw it, and said that Jason was screwed now. With extreme ease, Jason jumped, dodging the chair. He stopped on top of one of the tables and then charged at the fat guy. He ran until he got very close and kicked him in the face, knocking him to the ground as if he were nothing. The boy stood on top of one of the tables forming an aura, and all his classmates seeing that confirmed that the video was real. But furious, the fat guy got up, grabbing one of the tables and saying he was going to kill Jason when he lifted the table above his head, howling with rage. The teacher entered through the door and upon seeing the scene asked what was happening there. He told the boy to leave the table and reprimanded him for fighting in the classroom. He questioned why Jason was on top of one of the tables. Kim Jin-woo said it was just a prank to disguise. He turned to Gajamin, calling him an agent, and said he would get in touch with him to talk to Jae-jin. He headed toward the exit, saying he would see him again. As he passed by the teacher, he just tapped him on the shoulder and told him to start the class. Later, when classes were over, Gajamin was telling Sungmin what had happened earlier and that it seemed like a scene from a movie. They couldn't even touch Jason, and the boy lamented not having seen that scene live. He asked why Jason hadn't left the school yet and was told that the teacher had asked him to stay. Even though he didn't throw the first punch, the fight was inside the school, so maybe he was in trouble. While the two were thinking about what could happen at school, the teacher offered green tea to the boy, even though it wasn't a flavor that young people would like. He commented to the boy that the atmosphere of that school was very different from his previous school, and that when his father said he would transfer him to a place like that, he was against it, because he thought it would be hard for him to adapt, and they said he didn't speak either. But on the other hand, he was grateful to his father for trusting in his friend's qualities. He continued saying that before the transfer, the last time he had seen the boy was about 4 years ago, when he was still an elementary school student. The teacher began to recall when he saw the boy training. Incredible movements full of energy. The boy's father introduced him as a friend. With great politeness, the boy greeted the teacher. And the teacher at that time thought it was amazing that his father had turned one side of their house into a gym for the boy. Soon after, they went out for drinks to celebrate this reunion. The teacher told the boy that at that time he was brilliant and full of energy, and he didn't know what had happened in the meantime for him to end up in such a miserable place. He also mentioned that he asked for the teacher's understanding, but the boy would have to overcome the problems with the students on his own, because the reason his father raised him strong was not just to train his body. He ended by saying that someday he would overcome that silence. A sudden rain caught everyone returning home by surprise. Sung-min told his friend that now he needed to worry about Kim Jin-woo since there was no way to attract Jason. The cell phone he had taken from Jason received another message. Ariam was asking if he had an umbrella. Not knowing what to do, he asked why she was asking. She replied that she was in front of the stationery store and told him to come there. The boy went, already imagining that she would have an umbrella. When he saw the girl standing in front of the stationery store, it only confirmed his thoughts. She was waiting for Jason. He began to be consumed by doubts, whether he should take Jason to her or not. He didn't want to let them share an umbrella so closely. But then he had an idea that he thought was brilliant, and he ran off to find the boy to put his plan into action. Ariam continued waiting there for a little while longer until she heard Sungmin approaching, talking to Jason. He was commenting to his friend that he also didn't have an umbrella and was caught off guard. Seeing the girl there, he pretended not to know why she was there. She then started rummaging through her backpack looking for something. She took out a spare umbrella she had saved and offered it to Jason. Sung-min felt sad because his plan wouldn't work. With the umbrella gently extended towards the center, even though his eyes and heart were turned towards Jason, he wanted just once for the girl to look at him. He then took the umbrella, thanking her for her kindness, and said that he and Jason had a place to go. An arcade that had opened on Main Street and they were about to check it out. He asked if she would like to go with them. Meanwhile, Gagamin was running home to escape the rain. When he was passing by an alley, he encountered two guys. Jaemon, who had his nose broken by Jason, and the chubby one who got beaten by him in the classroom. Fearful, he asked what they wanted with him. Jaemon replied that since he said he was the boy's agent, he had a message to send to Jason. The two beat up the poor boy to pass a message to Jason. Jaemon said they would see each other again and asked the boy to repeat what he had said. Struggling, he replied that it was to make Jisun participate. The guy hit him again, telling him to answer properly. Already crying, the boy responded that he would talk to Jizen. The guy asked if he knew what a quick access penalty meant and said he was going to die. Then Kim Ji-moo appeared, asking the guy to go easy on the boy. He took one of the business cards and gave it to the boy and told him to tell Jisun that he would be very welcome to enter the combat kennel. And the three left, leaving the boy all messed up there. Meanwhile, Sungmin was at the game club that had opened, playing alongside our protagonist. While one was all excited playing, the other seemed not to care at all with skills he thought were unmatched. He gave his all to catch Ariam's attention. While thinking he was the best there, Jizen scored a point against him. The boy tried to disguise it as if everything was under control and returned to the game with more thirst for victory. And the protagonist played as if it were the easiest thing in the world, scoring another point in the game. The boy was surprised by his friend's skills and confidently said that from now on he wouldn't go easy on him until the game ended with a score of 13-0. Jisun didn't even let the poor guy score a point. He told Ariam to play once, thinking she would experience Jisun's coldness, hoping she would be completely disgusted by him. The two then started the match. A match of subtle touches that wasn't very fast until Ariam scored her first point, leaving Sungmin furious with the boy. Asking where that player from before had gone, the girl, very dedicated to the game, scored another point. They then went to the stuffed bear machines where Sungmin thought he would do well. But after a few unsuccessful attempts, he told Ariam to wait a little longer. He would succeed soon. He tried once more and failed again. He got angry, thinking it was a scam. And beside him, Jisun calmly grabbed another bear with two identical bears, but in different colors, in his arms. He handed one bear to each of his friends. Somewhat embarrassed, Sungmin thanked him and wondered what that guy couldn't do. Upset with everything that was happening, he decided to use his final card. He took the two to a karaoke, trusting in his singing skills, singing as loudly as possible, hoping the girl would notice him, putting on a real show, but not of singing, rather of comedy. The girl was clinging to the stuffed animal she had won from her crush. While singing like a man, and Sungmin choked on his own tongue and ran out to get some water. Then the two were left there and everything fell into complete silence. The girl took her phone and sent a message to Jason's phone thanking him for the bear. Suddenly, her phone started ringing. When she saw it was her dad calling, she instantly got nervous. She stood up and ran out of there. But when she exited the door, she bumped into a man, causing him to spill all his coffee. He yelled at the girl, telling her to watch where she was going. And because she didn't apologize, he got even angrier. Sungmin, upon returning and seeing that scene, tried to help. The man asked if she was his girlfriend, and the boy replied that they were just classmates. The guy spilled the rest of the coffee that was left on the girl's head, and as expected, the coward did nothing. But Jizen arrived and grabbed the man's arm, who asked what the hell he was doing. Our protagonist tripped the man, knocking him to the ground like a sack of trash. The guy who was with the man tried to attack the boy but got punched. Ariam saw the two men fall before her, and Jisun grabbed her by the arm and lifted her up. The two ran away to escape trouble. Some men was left behind, and the man asked if he was friends with those two. Quickly, he ran away so it wouldn't fall on him. He grabbed his backpack and his teddy bear and left. When he reached the street, he saw the two running down the stairs. He shouted to try to get their attention, but they ignored him and just continued on their way. Watching from afar, he was enchanted by how well the two looked together. Jizen helped Ariam when she was in danger, but Summon thought of himself as just a cowardly loser. And to the girl, he was just an ordinary NPC. Downcast, he returned home disappointed in himself until someone called his name. It was Gagumin who was lying in the corner all bruised up. The boy approaches him and asks what happened. With tears in his eyes, he says he is not qualified. He is not capable of becoming a spokesperson for Jisun. The boy asks if he was beaten up by Jin Woo's gang. Gagumin says he still promised that he would make Jisun participate in the dogfight. All of this because of his fear. Sungmin noticed that Gagumin was no different from him. This was the life of a cowardly loser. He helped the boy get up and walk towards his house. Gagumin asked what they should do now, and Sungmin said that if Jisun thinks of them as friends, he will help. The two, holding hands, reached a certain point and Jisun let go of her arm, and they continued walking side by side. She then grabbed an umbrella and covered both of them so they wouldn't get wet from the rain. Yena, who was nearby, saw the two walking closely together. When she noticed them together, she was left speechless, and her friend asked if something had happened. She played it off and said it was nothing. Then her little friend told them to hurry up because the others were waiting for her, and she went on her way watching the two walk closely together. Meanwhile, Ariam's phone vibrated with more notifications coming in, but she ignored it and just continued on her way. Arriving at the building where her house was, she stopped and took out her phone. She typed to him that this was where her house was. She handed him the umbrella and left. She ran off, skipping happily for having had that moment with her crush. When he turned to leave as well, someone tapped him on the shoulder and he turned around. He found a message on his phone that read, "Thank you so much for today." And Ariam, smiling, holding the phone. The girl then ran back towards her house. She entered the elevator and went up a few floors watching Jason leave from there, but the sound of a lighter igniting startled the girl. Looking to the side, she saw a man smoking a cigarette. Looking at her, and he asked what kind of nonsense that was. Ariam just remained silent with her head down. The next day, again at high school, Sung Min was cursing Gagamin for betraying Jason, and the boy lamented having done that, and said he deserved to die. He continued hitting him and humiliating him for having done that, saying things to try to make Jason feel sorry for him. He asked the so-called spokesperson when Jason would have to participate and said it would be Saturday night at 9 p.m. at the gym. And he said that if Jason didn't show up, he would be killed by the gang. The two tried to convey to the boy how screwed they were and how much they needed his help. But the protagonist just walked away from there, and they were left not knowing if he would go or not. Gagamin was desperate, thinking everything was ruined. Then on Saturday night at the fight club, the competitors faced off fiercely, attacking each other with great force. And with each blow, the audience watching cheered. The two boys were terrified that this was happening inside a school, and they wondered if Jason would show up there. Everyone was going crazy with the fights happening. A genuine exchange of punches between the two competitors. The crowd, with every opening one of the opponents gave, shouted for the other to take advantage of it. And the fighter took the hints and applied the blows. Through the cameras, a man watched the fights from a VIP area. Finally, that match had ended, and it was finally time for the main event. The guy was curious to see if Jae-sun would show up there. He thought the boy was a calm and kind guy, but in reality he was a fighter. He was unsure of who to bet on, whether Lee Tae-sung or Jae-sun. He might have been curious about the skills of the transfer student, but of course he should bet on Tae-sun, as that guy was the real hunting dog. The phone rang, and when he answered, he was told that there was a student at the gate, but he wasn't responding to anything that was being asked. The teacher knew it was Jae-sun, so he just said to let him in. He peeked through the window and saw the boy arriving and was sure that his courage was commendable. The courage to be a sacrificial lamb. The fight that was happening ended with Min Cheol as the winner. Kim Jin-woo wanted to know where Jason was since the main fight was approaching. His henchman then pressured the boys to find out if Jae-sun was coming or not, and that if he didn't show up, the two would fight against Tae-sung. Then the gym door opened. All eyes turned to the door to see who had arrived. There he was, the transfer student Jae-jin. Everyone was incredulous that he had actually come. Even the two were shocked when he arrived. They went to congratulate the boy for coming to save their lives. Kim Jin-woo said he arrived just in time as if he were a ghost and that he had been waiting for a long time. He mentioned that if the boy won, those who bet on him would win the jackpot, and only 10% of the people had bet on him. He also said that he had bet on him. In his eyes, Jae-sin was a bastard hungry for a hunt. He asked the boy to show everything he knew today. The two fighters of the main event stood facing each other, staring at each other, trying to figure something out about the other. The boy took off his headphones, asking if he was the transfer student. He threw his headphones to someone in the crowd and told them to play that song. He took off his shirt and said it was time for the show to begin. The two positioned themselves ready for the fight and they began exchanging blows. With Jae-sun always dodging everything, he returned a punch and the opponent defended. They continued testing each other's skills and limits. Between punches and kicks, only Tae-sung was taking the hits. After just a few small exchanges, he discovered, of all the guys he had faced so far, Jae-sung's level was different. Today was spine-chilling, but he wouldn't be intimidated. Just when he finished thinking that, he got punched in the face. Jae-sun managed to take advantage of the brief opening when Tae-sung lowered his guard. Then the protagonist didn't slow down. He kept delivering multiple blows to his opponent, not giving any opportunities to be attacked back. His two friends were celebrating with every hit he landed. Taesung was getting angry because the boy's expression never changed. He looked like a punching bag for Jisun. The teacher watching through the cameras wondered what was wrong with the boy he had bet on. The crowd began to get angry because Lee Tae-sun wasn't attacking. They asked to turn up the music to see if the boy would get more motivated. Like a chorus, they started shouting the boy's name. The music playing and the people shouting his name began to motivate him. Meanwhile, Jisun found that voice somewhat familiar, and this distraction caused him to take his first hits, making the audience get motivated again, and they wanted to know what song that was. A boy answered another that it was Ilacon, a girl group that was very popular these days. Jisun remembered a girl telling him that when her group debuted, he would become the boyfriend of a pop star. In the past, the girl asked him how he felt about that story, and she said that the producers would guarantee her debut if she just stayed in the contract. She was eager to know if she could make it happen. His friends called him to hang out. He told her that it didn't matter what she chose. For him, that would be the right answer. The girl was very happy with his words and thanked the boy. She said he was the only person she could count on, that he was her sanctuary. Then the crowd's cheers made him refocus on the fight. Being distracted, he was starting to take a series of hits. His friends began to worry about why he was acting that way. And Tae-sung started to think that Jae-sung was nothing special, just being very careful before. He became completely confident about winning this fight now. The crowd was shouting his name non-stop, and the music playing on the radio made the boy lose control of the fight. He was constantly being pushed back, and his friends didn't know how to help him. Then they realized it might be the loud music that was distracting him. They went to ask to lower the music. The boy told him to mind his own business. And Sung-min said that Jisun couldn't concentrate because of the music. Then they mocked him, saying that the quiet one just wasn't strong enough to win. Gagumin then grabbed the speaker and ran away. They even tried to catch him, but the boy managed to turn off the music. In the protagonist's mind, moments from his past were flashing by. The girl was breaking up with him and saying she didn't want to be involved with him anymore, and that from now on they wouldn't see each other again. She said she was fed up with it. She turned her back and left, leaving the boy calling for her. He called for the girl desperately until the security removed him from there. While he was lost in his memories, Tae-sung continued to land blows on him. He was almost finishing the fight, just needed a few more hits. And so he did, landing a few more blows on the boy, who fell to his knees on the ground with the girl in his mind. When Tae-sung went for the final blow to end the fight, everyone watching thought the fight had come to an end. But when he saw the kick coming, he quickly dodged. Then it seemed like his mind had reset, and he energized his entire body again, charging at his opponent with everything he had, landing a punch to Tae-sung's face that pinned him to the ground. The audience was shocked by that absurd strength. Jae-sung didn't stop and kicked his opponent's face again, making the rival spit blood and leaving him desperate, not knowing what was happening. Kim Jin-woo already knew that the fight was decided, so those who were cheering for the boy began to cheer while the rest fell silent. Tae-sung was completely lost since he had been winning the fight just seconds ago. But now he was being kicked around as if he were nothing. The boy had a terrifying look and aura. On the ground, his opponent begged him to stop. But the protagonist didn't care at all and kicked his face again and continued to kick him over and over again. Then everyone began to wonder what he was doing, as he would kill the guy if he kept this up. But Jisun seemed to be possessed by rage. People asked Kim Jin-woo if he wouldn't end up killing his opponent if he continued at this pace. But instead of being worried, he seemed pleased with the boy's bloodlust. He was happy thinking that this boy would be a box office success. And he asked who should be his next opponent to make an even more exciting fight. His friends then intervened in the fight, holding him back and saying he had already won. The teacher was furious to see his favorite losing like this. But for him, what mattered was who brought him money. And he believed that Jae-sin could be on his side in that regard. Now, he just needed to turn him into a loyal hunting dog. He would be the only one to train the boy. Jae-sin came back to himself, but his opponent was already almost unconscious on the ground. Kim Jin-woo congratulated him on his victory and said that his judgment was not wrong. He told the boy to show that same crazed look in the next match as well. The fight's money would be delivered through his agent. He then left and the two boys followed him. The two acted friendly, saying they should go celebrate the victory. But Jae-sun just slapped Gagumin's hand away as if to say not to touch him, and he walked away, leaving the boys confused. A little further away, passing in front of a store, he heard a familiar sound and looked to see Alicon's show on the screen. The interviewer asked if she knew about her popularity these days. She said she felt that her fans appreciated her efforts, even during moments of weakness, and thanked them. Sungmin and Gagamin were following the boy and were curious about why he had stopped to watch that about Alicon. Then they remembered that Jisung had been acting strangely after hearing her music. They thought he was a hater of hers and couldn't imagine that there were haters of her. Sungmin was shocked to see that Gagamin was a fan of the singer. He dismissed the boy, saying he had expected that from him. But then he revealed that he was also a fan of the band. Sometime later, Jisung arrived at the beach and the two boys continued to follow him there. The protagonist sat on a bench and admired the sea. Gagamon asked his friend if he shouldn't go talk to him, but Gagamon said it wasn't a good idea. The boy insisted, saying that if they were friends, they should do something. Gagamon said he had someone in mind who could comfort him, and he pondered whether he should do that or not. While he was already sleeping, Ariam's phone began to ring. She woke up and saw the message from Jisung telling her to go to the beach in front of the lighthouse. The girl put on an outfit and tried to leave discreetly. She passed by her father slumped over the table, sleeping after drinking too much. Then suddenly, he began to curse into the wind and the girl got scared. But it was just a dream and soon after, he passed out again. She managed to leave the house to go meet her crush. There at the beach, Gajamin asked who Sungmin had contacted and he said it was a girl. His friend was surprised to learn that he was messaging girls. He began to explain that actually, Ariam didn't know it was him sending the messages and that it was the phone she gave to Jisung because she wanted to communicate with him through it. But when he took the phone, he replied to some messages pretending to be the boy. And deep down he knew he should return it, but he couldn't. Gagumin put his hand on his friend's shoulder and asked if he liked her. He said he used to like her, but now he knew his place. Your friend then gave him a push and told him to return quickly. The boy walked over to Jisung, who was still sitting on the bench, and handed the phone to him. He apologized and said he had acted a bit like him, and that he also sent one last message asking the boy not to reject Ariam. As he left, he said that the two looked great together. Looking at the phone, he saw a message from the girl saying she was almost there. And for the first time, he felt nervous about the situation. There was Ariam running to meet her beloved. When she arrived, Gagumin, who was hiding, was amazed by the girl's beauty. While he said that the two matched well, his friend lamented having lost the girl of his dreams. Gagumin said it was getting late and that they should go home. He invited Sungmin to sleep at his house to play video games. The two left to give the lovebirds some privacy. Silence prevailed in that place, only the sound of the sea. Ariam wrote a message saying she was surprised when she received a message and she was waiting for a response from the boy. He replied saying he was thinking about her. She tried to start a conversation about the sound of the water, but he only responded with an emoji. The girl asked if he came there often and he said it was his first time. Jisung asked what time she usually went to sleep. And Ariam replied that at 10 p.m., and in fact, when she saw the message, she was already asleep. He got up and said he would walk her home, but the girl held his arm and said she didn't want to go home. He didn't argue or disagree. He just accepted her request. He went to the vending machine to get something for them to drink. She thanked him for his kindness, and he asked why she didn't want to leave. The girl said her home felt like a prison. She also said she was surprised when she received his message today and that the last time he only sent a goodnight message, which also surprised her that day. Because suddenly he had sent a message saying goodnight. Jisung checked his phone for the last messages, and there was a goodnight message from the previous day that was sent by Sungmin. But Jisung didn't say anything about it. The girl continued saying that she was going through a very difficult time that day, but that message felt like a small word of encouragement, telling her to hang in there. And she was very grateful at that moment and decided to ask the boy a question. She questioned why he wasn't talking. He began to think about the reasons and drifted into his memories. His ex-girlfriend who seemed to have abandoned him, while the security guards wouldn't let him pass and threatened to arrest him. The girl ran back to him and hugged him with all her strength. She said she practiced breaking up with him so many times to remain as cold as possible. But now seeing his face, she couldn't do it. She couldn't leave him even if it meant ruining her life, and she asked Jisung what she should do. He said that regardless of what happened, he would always be there for her and told her not to cry, that everything was okay. On top of the building, watching the two was Go-bong-san, the CEO of Bong-san Entertainment. Returning to reality, he replied to Ariam saying that a person's words could penetrate your soul and stop everything. She became a bit reflective and said that was very philosophical. She said she didn't know what was happening with him, but she thought his reason wasn't as simple as hers. The boy asked what the reason was for her not speaking. Calmly, she replied that it was simple. Her words were dirty, just like her father's. She realized that the way her father spoke was part of her and acknowledged that it was a stupid reason. Jason invited her to walk along the beach. As expected on a Saturday night, that area was quite crowded. In a bar they were passing by, a discussion started inside. A group of guys began to pick on a boy a little younger than them for drinking in that place. The confident boy replied that he could drink because he seemed more mature for his age. The boy's arrogance made everyone angry. It was Kong Doyle, the leader of the gang that wanted to recruit Jason, who was there and said he just wanted to drink in peace. One of them asked where Doyle's lackeys were and why he was there alone. The boy replied that he preferred to let the kids rest during the holidays and that it was easier for him that way. The guy told him to get out of there, saying that if he didn't, he would suffer the consequences. Mocking the guy, he asked if the veterans from DZO High bullied him to have so much hatred. They called him petty for being stuck on his ideas. One of them knocked everything off the table, saying he was eager to hit him. Standing up and kicking the table over the four of them, he said that first of all, he was never afraid of getting beaten. Everyone inside and outside noticed that a fight was about to start. The exchange of punches one against four began. Con Doyle seemed to be playing fight with children until in the middle of his movements, his gaze found Jason's blue hair. He smiled and said it was a pleasure to see him there. He was very happy to see his friend. He said he was about to visit him, but they happened to meet there. He hugged the boy who didn't understand anything and said it was destiny. The guys who were fighting him in the bar came running and asked if Jason was from the same gang as him. He asked if they couldn't tell just by looking. He said he and Jason were friends. But the guys didn't care about that friendship. Jason placed Arion behind him to protect her, and the guys started attacking with hatred, saying they were going to kill those punks. While the gang leader hit one of the guys, another approached Jason saying that if they were friends, both should get beaten up. But the protagonist easily took down the bully. The two fought together against that group, warning when someone was about to be caught off guard. And with that, they took them all down in a matter of seconds. Ariam thought that she believed Jason was on top of a very high wall, but she realized that at times, the boy comes down from the wall to help someone. He even seems very cold, but in reality he is not cold at all. Everyone fights for their own desires out of pure selfishness. But Jason was beyond that. He fights for something beyond his own will out of desperation. Then one of the guys pulled out a knife and approached the boy from behind. Without him noticing, the guy got close enough to strike him. The girl screamed desperately to try to warn him. His fighting companion warned him to duck. He did so immediately and dodged the blow. And then the gang leader arrived with a flying kick to his opponent's face. He cursed the guy for having the audacity to pull a weapon against just two opponents. That people without skills like him are always like that when they are in trouble. They then took down everyone who tried to hit them. The boy asked Jason if he didn't think they made a great team. Since they took care of everyone just fine, Jason looked at Ariam and saw her eyes filled with tears. The guy asked if she was scared and said that it was nothing. Then the protagonist punched him in the face and he asked what the hell was going on. Without answering anything, Jason punched him again in the stomach. He fell to the ground and said he did all that just to see Jason fight for real. The protagonist was about to end it, but the boy raised his hands and said he surrendered and that he didn't want to fight him because they were on the same side right now. He apologized for how it was done, but that was just a test, and he passed with flying colors. Then he asked Jason to be his friend and join his gang. But the boy just turned his back and walked away with Ariam. The other followed them, saying that the two had gotten pretty close to be together at this time of night and that he was satisfied because he felt he played some role in this event. He said that since he owed Jason one for the help he gave, he would show them a place to rest instead of wandering aimlessly around. The two were hesitant but went along. The guy took them to a comic book library. He called the attendant who was sleeping to serve his new customers. He seemed to be in a deep sleep, not even knowing how much time had passed. He said he had never seen those faces around and Doyle replied that they were his new friends. The attendant said that apparently his type of friends had changed since these were good-looking. He told the two to sit wherever they wanted and that they would have more than enough time because of the house. While the boy was registering the two there, at Ariam's house, her father was waking up from his deep sleep. When he got up, he noticed the door was open. He went to the girl's room and saw that she wasn't there. He started searching for her throughout the entire house. He became desperate when he couldn't find the girl anywhere. Doyle said that this was his secret hideout where he used to relax at any time, and he would give them 2 special permissions, since he doesn't let anyone enter there. He asked if that cleared his debt with the boy. He told the 2 to relax and read some manhwa. He said goodbye to them and mentioned that he was going to take a nap. He lay down in one of the corners and fell asleep there. The 2 remained silent, and Jason took out his phone and asked if she was scared. Ariam said no, that she was calm now. She asked if he wanted to read some memoir. He agreed, and they picked a work to start reading. After reading a few pages, there were some moments of shyness from the girl. They continued reading quietly for a good while, until the library attendant came to offer them something to drink on the house. He expressed surprise that Doyle also had friends like them. Doyle actually doesn't have real friends, just kids who look for fights all day. When he handed them the drinks, they noticed that he was missing part of 2 fingers on his hand. He realized they were surprised by that. He said he was already used to it, that it doesn't bother him anymore. But at first it was horrible, and that Doyle still hasn't accepted that he lost his fingers. The child who was once ordinary began to stray from the path there. He apologized to the 2 for talking so much during their first time there, and he asked them to take care of Doyle for him because he is a great junior. Hours passed, and the girls slept leaning on his shoulder. She slept until her phone started ringing. She woke up startled by the noise and felt embarrassed when she saw she was leaning on Jason. Looking at her phone, she saw 3 missed calls. She texted the boy that it was her dad calling and that she needed to go home. Jason said he would take her home then. The 2 walked home through the beautiful night. They arrived at the building where the girl lived. They took the elevator to go to her apartment door. She thanked him for the hours of freedom she had spent with him. Jason was a bit confused about what she meant, and she headed toward her apartment. When she entered the password to open the door, her father opened it furiously. He shouted and asked if she knew what time it was and how many times he had called her. He said she must have gone crazy to do something like that. Seeing her expression made him even angrier. He slapped her face and cursed her for looking at him like that even though she was wrong. With the girl on the floor, he questioned whether she didn't respect her father. Holding the girl to push her inside the house, he asked how she dared to go out without telling him and what she had been doing until now. He kept shouting louder at the girl, demanding that she answer his questions. Jason, seeing that, became furious and approached them. Her father, seeing him, was sure that he had taken his daughter out at this hour and that today he wouldn't let the boy leave there. The girl grabbed her father's clothes with both hands. Her father shouted for her to let go immediately. She looked at Jason with tears in her eyes and shouted for him to go away. Giving her another slap in the face, the old man said he would kill that boy right now. The girl resisted the slaps and continued holding on to her father, telling Jason to go away. She shouted for him to just leave there, then he heard her words and ran away from there. The protagonist began to think that he had already learned to run away when he fled to that city in the past. He also hadn't been able to face this before. As he fled, the girl's father continued to hit her to make her let go of him. But Jason just took the opportunity to escape. The person he was runs away if he can't fight against something. It's as if nothing had happened. He closes his eyes in the silence and darkness, struggling to hide. Well away from the girl's house, he walked completely exhausted and shaken. Finally, he arrived at where his home was. An old man was kneeling before the Buddha making his prayer. Jason knelt at the door, and the old man, seeing him, said he had come home late. He said it was the first time the boy was late like this and that he must have a lot to think about. The neighborhood where he moved to hide was the quietest place to live. But even there, he made new friendships over time. And now he needed to make a choice before all of this gets too deep, whether he accepts it or will run away once again. A few days passed since that incident. The fights continued to occur inside the school. The fight club was pure savagery. Whoever was winning only stopped hitting when the other begged, and the bullies thought they were tough for beating weaker students. Jin Woo, seeing that the boy had surrendered, was furious until he questioned the reason. He said that the boy had barely started the fight to give up. The boy then replied that he hardly had any chances and had no reason to keep fighting if he knew he would lose. Then Kim Jin-woo kicked him in the face and said that if he was in the ring, he shouldn't have that kind of mentality. And people like him don't deserve to be fighters. He ended by telling the boy to never look at his face again. One of the henchmen said that Professor Kim was calling for him in the storage room. So there in the storage room, the professor told him that they needed real fighters and not these pests, and that everyone was looking forward to Jason's next fight. Kim Jin-woo said he was trying to find fighters, but most of them have no stamina, and the others are afraid of getting hurt. The professor asked if he was saying he couldn't find people. With a trembling voice, he replied that he didn't say that and that he only said it would take some time. When asked how long it would take, the boy asked the professor for a month. The man then said that he made the bastard who walked around in fake sneakers capable of wearing luxury clothes. And now it seems he is very confident and that clients don't wait a month. He also said there are other gaming places for him to get his dose of dopamine. That if he couldn't manage, he could step away from operating the hound dog. The boy knelt down and said he didn't want that and promised to do his best. The professor stepped on his head and said he had a week. If he didn't find an opponent during that week, he should take responsibility and fight. Kim Jin-woo versus Jae-sun would be an interesting fight. That way, he could enjoy showing his version of a fighter again and the clients would love it. The professor was leaving and reminded him of the 1-week deadline. He was furious at the idea of him fighting Jae-sun. Now he needs to find anyone to fight. Meanwhile, on the roof, the three were having lunch together. Gaguman said he had won a dankatsu bento and that it was bad to eat bread every day. The two boys kept telling Jae-sun to eat because he was too skinny. Having lunch there had become a routine for them since that place was comfortable. When the boy's phone vibrated, Sung-min immediately asked if it was Ariam. He became anxious, asking if the two were getting along and told Jae-sun to check his phone. The protagonist stood up and went to see the message away from them, and the boy kept asking to see what it was. Gagamon gave him a light smack and told him to mind his own business. Ariam had asked if he would like to meet her at the comic book store later. Hours passed and the two went to the comic book store. They spent some time in silence, just existing. She gathered her courage and said it would be strange if she didn't speak now since she had shouted that time. And she said she hated her own voice because she has a vulgar way of speaking that she picked up from her father since she was young. She wished it were possible to hide her own voice, but she doesn't regret it because she doesn't like him getting hurt. Ariam told that her mother endured her father's behavior until she couldn't take it anymore. And when that day came, she left. And now it's just her and her father at home. That's when she started to speak less until she completely stopped. With that, few friends she had remained. Doyle then arrived at the comic book store. The attendant told him that his friends were also there. Ariam continued telling Jae-sun that she had always been alone until she heard rumors about him. A new transfer student who didn't say anything. So she wanted to know if his story was similar to hers. Doyle arrived and was shocked to see her talking and asked what had happened to her for her to be speaking. Somewhat embarrassed, she said she was in a situation where she had no choice but to not speak, and he questioned what that situation was. Smiling, he said that regardless of what it is, he likes being able to communicate more freely and congratulated her for speaking again. Silence lingered again until Doyle asked about Jae-sun, but he said it didn't matter and since they were all there, they would have dinner together. He called the attendant to join them too since there were no customers so they could just lower the blinds and go. As they left for dinner, Kim Jin-woo was furious, thinking about the possibility of fighting Jae-sun. The fat guy said that giving just a week for this was very cruel. Furious, Kim asked them if they didn't know any bully to fight. The fat guy said he didn't know anyone and it would be embarrassing to lose to the transfer student. He said he only had one person in mind. He talked about some bully who left school and became a gangster and anyone involved with him was doomed. The other boy asked if it wouldn't be too much to involve a real gangster in this. Kim Jin-woo asked who he was talking about. Somewhere in the city, a man is being pressured by a loan shark for being 2 months behind on his payments, and that hiding out without notifying anyone was like trying to avoid them. The man crying says he is trying to pay. Then, with scissors in hand, the guy asks if that is really true since he was caught in a casino and taken there. Desperate, the man said he was there to try to get money to pay off the debt, and with just one jackpot, he could pay the total amount. He said he had been dreaming of his ancestors and felt that something big was about to happen in his life. The man took his hand and with scissors, he held his finger. Terrified by the situation, he begs for more time to pay back the loan. The owner there said that even while working, he wasn't paying the debt and now wanted to pay through gambling. He asks if anyone there looks like an idiot to him. The thug holding his hand says it will sting a bit and that he is a master in this area, so he will finish it cleanly and precisely. The man pleads for forgiveness, but no one listens to him, and they cut off one of his fingers. Then the thug says that what is happening now is very important and that he has 1 hour to get the money. Then he will return the finger so he can sew it back on. He told the man to run out of there, and amidst tears he left. The boss asked if his thug was happy to add another finger to his collection. He replied that he doesn't like that kind of low-quality finger, but it had been a while since he felt that thrill. This was the guy the fat guy had in mind for the fight, Zhang Zitaizenbai, who cut off a finger of a student from the same class who played guitar in the school band. His friends said that this guy was already too crazy. He continued to say that after that he served in a juvenile unit and became a gangster after getting out. Kim Jin-woo was excited and asked if there was any way to meet this guy. Even the fat guy who suggested it was shocked by the possibility of calling him. The boy was thrilled about a fight between the Sunbae who became a gangster and the invincible transfer student, and he said they were not in a position to be picky about whether he was a gangster or a killer. They just had to make it happen. While they were planning this fight, the four went out to dinner somewhere. Hyung complained about not liking to go out, and Doyle said he couldn't rot in the mama store every day. Doyle commented that at some point in the past, Hyung had been on stage, and the boy said it had been a long time. Ariam said it was just a phase, and Doyle asked if the boy was in a band since he was a great guitarist. Then he changed the subject, asking if they would like to eat street food or Chinese food. A car passed by and spotted the four walking down the street. The loan shark and his thug were in the car, and he asked to stop for a bit since he had some friends he wanted to say hi to nearby. He got out of the car and said he would be right back. Then he started shouting, calling Hyun. Getting closer, he said that when he saw him he wasn't sure, but now he confirmed it was him. While the guy was talking about how it had been a while, the boy, upon seeing him, became desperate. He walked backward until he bumped into Doyle, who held him to try to understand the situation. The gangster asked if he saw a ghost to be so scared.
Alright, that's the end of the story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.